morning all. First of all, thank you all for joining the session. This is actually our third webinar for e-invoicing. We have actually conducted 2 sessions in for the wave 1, one in October and one in November. This was actually planned for the second wave, but recently ZATCA has notified for third wave also. So inshallah, this session is applicable for both second wave and third wave sessions. So before starting the session, I'll be giving a quick introduction regarding the Flick Network. We are a RegTech solution provider focusing on e-invoicing and open banking API. Also, we are also providing an invoicing solution called as Flick Bills, and inshallah, within 1 month, we'll be launching our accounting solutions, complete accounting solutions called as Flick Books. So Arshad, can you just share the screen and we can show the... Yeah, second page. So in the session, we'll be discussing about global invoicing, then invoicing in the Saudi Arabia landscape, and a demonstration of our current EGS or the invoicing solutions. And lastly, we can have a Q&A session. For global invoicing, the session will be done by Mr. C.S. Zirhan. He's actually a chartered accountant and also working as an assurance executive associate for Big Four. Currently, he's actually a trainer for professionals regarding various matters like accounting, like assurance services, like taxation. He'll be handling the global invoicing, and he'll be helping you to give a walkthrough on which all countries have done the invoicing and which are to be done the invoicing, and what are the impact of invoicing in the current market and economy. Secondly, Mr. Ashik is there. Ashik will be leading the invoicing in the basic scenario. He'll be helping you in the legal aspects of invoicing, like the key dates, then the slabs for invoicing second waves, and also the penalties, the impact if anyone fails to imply the invoicing concept. Ashik is actually an audit senior executive manager in one of the leading firms in Saudi Arabia. They have presence in Saudi Arabia, they have presence in Dubai, and also they are in Qatar and Bahrain. Then for the demonstration, we have Irshad. She's actually our invoicing lead, and he has some experience for some implementation for our clients. He'll give you a walkthrough on the demonstration of invoicing EGS solutions, and also he'll be helping you on the challenges faced regarding the implementation. And for lastly, we have Mr. Amin. He's a technical head. He'll be helping out in the Q&A session, and if any technical in-depth aspects comes up. That's it, Irshad. We can start the session, Zirhan. I think you are available, right?
Yes, and very good morning to one and all. This is Zirhan Muhammad, a chartered accountant and also a trainer. Yes, that's with my introduction. And regarding e-invoicing, I should say e-invoicing is a drastic change that will affect our all the tax aspect. And I will start with the definition. That means e-invoicing. E-invoicing means the electronic invoicing, to be specified. The electronic invoicing is a tax invoice generated and stored electronically, which uploaded and authenticated by a designated portal. And for much more clarity, why e-invoicing? When we are answering the question why invoicing, the tax department or the tax authorities have to know. Have to implement some more transparent way of invoicing. They have to know what all are the businessmen invoicing, to whom the invoice has been done, and what all are the contents in the invoice. Technically, they have to know what all are the businessmen are invoicing. So why invoicing implemented? Yes, slide is okay. And technically, we as a businessman, when we are issuing an invoice, the tax authority is saying we have to know about this. Simply saying we have to know about this. So we will generate and exchange invoices electronically between buyers and sellers. And this invoice we will upload at the time of issuing the invoice itself. We will be uploading in tax authorities. With the tax authorities, there will be a designated portal. I hope Amin will be dealing with that technical part. And this technology this technology will increase the efficiency and security and cost effectiveness. Moreover, for example, there are hundreds of accounting software are there. Businessmen are using hundreds of, nowadays more than 100 software are available in the market, and they are each software, for example, software A will issue invoice in a separate form, software B will issue in a separate form, and in fact the information included in each of the invoice being the same. So these data, these what to say, the content we have to intimate with this tax authorities. Hence we have there is a need to standardize the format in which the electronic data of an invoice will be shared with others to ensure there is an interoperability of the data. So whenever the businessman is issuing the invoice, the tax authorities have to know, and governmentally, and we will check what are the benefits. What are the benefits of e-invoicing? It will increase the tax compliance, because tax authorities will know whenever businessmen are issuing invoice, reducing errors and frauds, improve business efficiency, and encouraging digitalization. Everything is going digital nowadays, everything. So Irshad, please move on to the next. Yes. So in Saudi, I think phase 2 is running. Brazil was one of the first country implemented e-invoicing, which was in 2006, and this is 2023. You have to think about it. And India also, our country, India also is implementing e-invoicing with their goods and service tax. And in Middle East, Egypt was the first country, and in Saudi, they have implemented in 2021 the phase 1, and the phase 2 is running. So as an overall picture, what e-invoicing work, how e-invoicing work, whenever we are issuing an invoice, when we means businessman issuing an invoice, we have to upload this data to tax authority, and post successful authentication of that data, a unique invoice reference number should be generated for each invoice. That means unique reference number, IRN. Along with IRN, each invoice is digitally signed and added with a QR code, so that tax authority will have a complete picture of whatever the sales we have made. And in returns also, the returns, that monthly return, whatever the quarterly return, it will be auto-populated. So that is the basic picture of e-invoicing. Globally, it's happening like this. Yes, hope everyone is clear. If you have any specific doubts to ask me, you can ask, or a separate question and answer session is there.
Thank you, Zurhan. They can ask questions in the last session.
Okay, thank you so much.
Zurhan has explained us regarding the global invoicing market, which other countries has been gone through and which has to be implemented. Nextly, Mr. Ashik will be joining. He'll be explaining the key invoicing aspects in Saudi Arabia, the key dates and the penalty implications on invoicing, the legal matters mainly. Yeah, Ashik.
Thank you, Basil, for the warm welcome, and good morning to all listeners out here. So thank you, Flick Network, for hosting this wonderful session for invoicing. So basically, we people know the digitalization of Saudi economy. So that is when during 2021, the Saudi government, ZATCA, has removed all the written invoices to digital invoices. So that was the time during 2021 when e-invoicing was implemented in the kingdom. So it was on December 4th when phase 1 of e-invoicing has started in the kingdom. So during the phase 1, it was just for a generation of QR code in the e-invoicing. So at that time, many people were in doubt why the government, why ZATCA has implemented this. So basically, the idea of implementing e-invoicing was for improve the compliances in the kingdom. Like many people don't know what actually the VAT, how the invoices should be. So to improve the compliance, the ZATCA has implemented the system. And also, we know many tax evasions is happening out here in the kingdom. So to reduce the risk of tax evasion, they have implemented e-invoicing as well. And also, as well, we know the invoices, like, it was not streamlined earlier. So to bring down it and under a streamline, so these were the main basis why e-invoicing was implemented in the kingdom. So since December 4th, everyone was waiting for the phase 2. Recently, the notifications came up for phase 2 integration part. So the phase 2 was for implemented, and the all focus was three waves. Recently, the wave 3 has also announced. So the first wave was for companies having a turnover of above 3 million during 2021 or 2022. And the wave 2 turnover, those companies having turnover above 500 millions has to comply with e-invoicing integration fees. And the wave 3 was for turnover companies having a turnover above 250 million. So this was the base of e-invoicing in Saudi Arabia. So going on, many people would be asking, what if we don't comply with this e-invoicing? Will there be any problem, or what are the consequences we will have to face? So firstly, if any violation has been found by the ZATCA, the first thing what they will be doing is only serving a notice and asking the taxpayer not to repeat the same. They'll be giving a warning in the first. So we might think, what is this? Just a notice. No, they'll be giving us 3 months time to correct the violation. So we'll be getting a 3 months to comply with the invoicing integration part. So even if we are found guilty after 3 months, the fines and penalties will be liable. So after 3 months, if we violate if the second violation is found, the penalty is SAR 1,000 riyals. And going on, if we haven't complied, thirdly, the additional penalty is 5,000. And the fourth, it is 10,000. And for the further violations, it is 40,000 riyals, and it's so on. So basically, violations, government is focusing on easiness, like, the violations, we as a businessman is concerned, keeping a violation in the business, it is not good. So it is always better to comply with the government regulations and rules at the earliest, because currently in the kingdom, all the many service providers like Flick Network is occupied with serving businessmen with easiness. So any complications or any doubts can be rectified by this paper. So that was all about my session with invoicing in Saudi Arabia. And thank you all.
Thank you, Ashik. And that was a good session. Now, the most important part of the session, which is actually the demonstration of our EGS, which will be done by Arshad, our invoicing leader. Arshad, you can take.
Yeah, thank you, Basil. So thanks, Ashik and Ziram, for the wonderful sessions. And so in this walkthrough, what we are planning is to show you a demo of our product and how the data flow is happening in the phase 2. Okay, so let's get to it. So first, I'll just give a demo or an introduction about how the data flow is happening in phase 2. So over here, we can see there are different type of ERPs that you might be using, or maybe you are using a POS system to issue the invoices. So once you raise an invoice in any of these ERPs, it will flow to our EGS network. It may be through APIs or SFTP port. So we'll get the data through from your ERP, then we will process it. We'll create the XML data, then send it to ZATCA for clearance. And once ZATCA has cleared, ZATCA will respond back with the invoice hash and modified QR. So on the basis of which the XML is embedded to the PDF A3 and delivered back to your ERP. So this is how it works. So our EGS is currently can be hosted in your on-premise infrastructure or on your cloud. So with this basic data, we'll just get to the demo. So I'll go to our documentation over here. So in this session, I'll be showing how things are done through an API. Okay. So for every API request, there will be an authentication token. This token on onboarding will be providing it to you. So basis on that, let's see how we can onboard the EGS for phase 2. So you might be seeing this term EGS a lot in the phase 2. So EGS is a term used by ZATCA. It means invoicing generation solution, which means any piece of middleware or a platform that can communicate with ZATCA for getting invoices cleared, issuing new certificates, reporting of invoices and everything. Okay, now let's just see how we generate how we onboard your company for phase 2. So as I mentioned in the headers, we have to provide the authentication token as well as the OTP from Fatura portal. So this Fatura portal is fatura.zatka.gov.sa. So once you log into that Fatura portal, you can click on onboard a new device, then generate an OTP that is valid for 1 hour. So with that 6-digit OTP, we can proceed by providing other parameters. So first parameter is the device name, which will be given from our end. It has a naming convention. I'll get to that. Then we have to provide the Sijil Tijari, the CR number, the VAT name and number, the address details, and the industry. With all this information, we will be sending it to ZATCA and getting the production certificates. So let's see how it is done. So here I have a simulation portal with me. So this is just like if you're a technical person, you would know this as a postman, where we can send API requests by setting up the headers and everything. Okay, so this is being pointed to the sandbox servers of ZATCA. Okay, as I mentioned, the device name has a strict naming convention provided by ZATCA. So 1 dash the manufacturer name, then 2 dash the version number, 3 dash the serial number. This will be provided by our end when you're onboarding. Then we have to provide the CR number, VAT name, address details, and the industry. So with this data, once we click on send, this API request will be sent to ZATCA. Then the compliance certificate and production certificate will be generated. Let me just copy this EGS UUID, which is a unique reference ID for this EGS created by our end itself, because an entity can have multiple EGS. Say, for example, you have multiple ERPs, multiple POS systems that are generating the invoices. So you can definitely have multiple EGS. It doesn't have to have multiple systems. With just one ERP itself, we can set up multiple EGS. So to understand from which EGS this is being created, we create a unique ID for that. So now let's get to the main part. How are invoices being generated in phase 2? Okay, so here we just need the authentication token, and in the body part, we have to provide the EGS ID, which I just showed you, which I copied, and invoice reference number. This is a reference number coming from your ERP itself. So your ERP might have a unique sequence for any set of industry. It will be like INV-001 and so on. So for multiple line of business, you can have multiple sequences. For products also, you can have multiple sequences, but there should be a logical sequence in the numbering. Okay. Then the issue date and time of the invoice. Then document type. You can see few numbers over here, 388, 383, and 381, referencing different documents. So what are these numbers? These numbers are provided by ZATCA itself. So 388 means it's an invoice. 383 means a debit note. 381 is a credit note. So debit note in this sense is any correction to the invoice that increases the value of the invoice. Okay. And 381 is a correction to the invoice but decreasing the value. So if you are about to cancel an invoice, then you'll have to raise a document with 381. So these are the these are not strict. Once we implement for your company, you might have different. We are open for flexibility over here. So you might from your ERP, it might not come as 383 or 388 or something like that. It can come in any code. Then we interpret it as such and convert it to these numbers when we are sending it to ZATCA. Okay, then we have invoice type over here. Standard and simplified are the two options you can give. The standard is B2B invoice when you're giving it to a party who is already VAT registered to another business. So simplified invoices are B2C transaction when you're giving it to an end customer who doesn't take the input. So why do we need to segregate standard and simplified invoices? This is the main part where it comes for phase 2. So in standard invoices, once you raise the invoice at that point of time itself, in real time, it has to be submitted to ZATCA, get it cleared, and then only you can give it to the customer. But that's not the case in simplified invoices. Simplified invoices, you can raise the invoice, give it to the customer, and within 24 hours, you have to report it to ZATCA. So in case of standard invoices, it is getting cleared. In real time, it has to be cleared before we can give it to the customer. In case of simplified, you can give it to the customer, but you have to report it to ZATCA within 24 hours. So depending upon the bulk of B2C invoices that you might be raising in your business, we'll be setting up cron jobs to report it to ZATCA. So if you have huge number of B2C invoices being raised, then maybe every hour or every 3 hours, we'll be reporting it to ZATCA. Now let's get to the party details. This is optional part because in simplified invoices, it won't be there. So over here, we have to give the VAT name and number of the customer, CR number, city, address details, and okay, if anybody has any question, you may unmute yourself or put it in the chat box.
Hi, this is Sunny from Petromin Corporation.
Yes.
We run one of our businesses which is into electric vehicle charging. Essentially, it involves basically customer brings the electric vehicle, they charge through the electric vehicle chargers installed at our fuel stations, and then the customer makes the payment through debit card, which are automated. So in that case, what happens in this case is, there's no POS. So does the API integration of Flick, if we sign up with you, will happen through the API of the app developer, or there is further intervention required?
See, it was a bit noisy, but if I understood the question correctly, you have different offline POS setup charging stations, right?
There is no POS. The billing to the customer happens through the app itself.
Okay, it's through an app. Okay, so
Yes.
if I am right, the invoice also gets issued through the app itself.
That's correct, and it is sent through email.
Okay.
PDF free.
Yes. So in case of if you are having your own app, then you can directly, before issuing the invoice with the customer, you can send the invoice details to our API, then generate the invoice, then send that invoice to the customer.
Understood.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope.
Sure.
Yes.
One more
Yes.
question from you, Fadin. The question is that here you can read the question, I think.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so once a POS is an offline POS, how we can integrate for phase 2. So in such cases, what we do is your POS system has to be online once every 24 hours. So we can integrate our invoicing phase 2 application in your POS itself. Then through that, you can raise the B2C invoices. We just need the phase 2 QR in it. Then you can deliver it to the customer. Then once the invoice generation is completed, once every 24 hours, you have to bring it to, connect it to the internet so it can sync with our database. So from our database, it will be sent to ZATCA, then get it reported. So in offline POS cases, this will be, how the phase 2 will be happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope that clears, Yusuf. And then I'll continue where I have stopped. So we have informed about the party details where we have to give the customer details for standard invoices. Okay. Then payment method is an additional information that usually the ERPs don't usually doesn't have. So in the mainline ERPs, they already have what type of transaction it was. So 10, 30, 42, and 48, these are the numbers given by ZATCA. So 10 means cash transaction, 30 means a credit transaction, 42 means a bank account receipt, 48 means a debit or credit card receipt. So this is mandatory in phase 2. Then line items over here, this part contains the name of the service or item, the quantity, the tax exclusive price, what is the VAT percentage, and discounts if any. Okay. Then cancellation part, which is optional for 383 and 381 document types. So 383 and 381 are debit note and credit note. So in case of raising a debit note or credit note, you have to provide the original canceled invoice number and the reason for that. So with this basic structure, let's see how our invoices are created. So we have sample request over here, so which I will be sending the request. So let me first copy paste the EGS UUID which we just generated. Okay. And so over here we have the invoice reference number, issue date and time, party details over here, the document type 388, which is an invoice. Then it's a standard invoice, B2B transaction. Payment type, we have given number 10, which means a cash transaction. Then line items, we have multiple line items over here with different quantity, price, and everything. So I'll just show you the portal, what we have over here. So this is our portal. So your user need not come to our portal to download the invoices. Okay. It will be sent directly to your ERP or your POS system once it is generated. If your ERP supports SFTP port, then through that port, we'll be sending the invoice PDF. If not, then we'll be sending the base 64 of the PDF A3. Okay. So currently both the clearance and reporting tab are no invoices are generated. So I'll just click on send. So what I want you to understand is that you might have seen 1 or 2 seconds delay in generating this response. From our end, every invoice is getting generated within 1 second, 300 milliseconds to be precise. So so why is the delay? The delay is from ZATCA sandbox side. Okay, from ZATCA sandbox, you can see the response that we have received for the XML that we have prepared is clearance status as clear, which means that the XML which we have prepared for this invoice data has been cleared by ZATCA. There are no issues or errors in that case. And in the response, you can see the invoice hash and the QR, which I'll just show you in the front end. Let me just refresh. Yeah. So the invoice that we have just generated is appearing over here, and you can see the XML and PDF A3 for that invoice. So if I click on XML, the XML will be downloaded. And over here, you can see different values as signature value, the invoice reference number, the QR of that invoice, and the line items of that invoice, everything in a structured format required by ZATCA. This is the format that we are sending it to ZATCA for clearance. Okay. So once it is cleared, you can't provide this to the customer, right? So how can you give a PDF to the customer? So a normal PDF won't work in case of phase 2. Okay, it has to be in a specific PDF A3 format. So what is this PDF A3 format? So PDF A3 has I'll open it in Acrobat. Okay, so this is a demo format. This is no way the format required by ZATCA, because Arabic and the table details, everything has to be there. So in case of phase 2, when we are onboarding your company for phase 2, we'll be customizing your invoices, your current invoice formats to beat how many invoices formats that you have. We'll be pre-building it in our EGS itself. So once you generate an invoice with your company logo and your current structure of your PDF, in that same format, it will be generated over here. So the QR you see over here is a phase 2 QR, which contains additional information like the invoice hash, the signature values, and everything. Okay, so why is this a PDF A3? So that's why we are over here. So you can see in the attachment section of this PDF, there is that XML already embedded to this PDF, and it has a naming convention of your VAT number underscore the date and time underscore the invoice reference number. And if you come to the conformance section, you can see an ISO standard over here. So International Standards Organization has put forward a standard for PDF A3, which is 19005, which says the archival standards and everything required for a PDF A3. Okay, so you can see the status as status not verified. So if you click on verify conformance, you can see the status as verification succeeded. So this is actually a paid application. You can also test, before moving on with the vendor, you can go to demo.verapdf.org. You can note down this URL, and over here also you can select the PDF, then click on next. Then you can see the status. So the compliance status is passed with the PDF A3 validation. Okay. So there are PDF A3B and A3A, both are valid by ZATCA. So you have to check before moving forward with the vendor if their PDF A3 validations are correct or not, because this PDF A3 is being archived in your system, and when ZATCA officials come for a test, at that point only you might know that it's not a PDF A3, because it's not being sent to ZATCA any point of time. Okay, so we have seen PDF A3 is provided by different clients have approached us, saying that the PDF A3, once they have implemented, seen that the PDF A3 is not actually valid as per these compliance checks. So that's why I emphasized it more on that, how you can check it. So now once we have generated the standard invoice, right, let's get to simplified invoices. So in simplified invoices, the tags are much shorter. We just have to give the EGS unique ID. So you don't have to provide this EGS unique ID by yourself. None of these are manual. Everything will be sent from your ERP automatically to our sandbox. Okay. So we have the invoice reference number over here, issue date and time, and document type. Once again, it's an invoice. Then we have 2 line items over here. So once I click send, it will be sent to ZATCA for reporting purpose also. Currently, we are doing it in real time just to show you the demo. You can see the reporting status as reported, because this is a simplified invoice. Okay. And the QR and invoice hash is also given as a response. So I'll just refresh over here. Okay, the invoice number 2 is generated, and here also you can download the XML and PDF A3. So in this case, the PDF A3, the printout of that PDF can be given to a customer before it is getting reported to ZATCA. So we will be scheduling a job, post which we will be, reporting it to ZATCA. And over here, the last thing which we want to show is standard credit notes creation. Which is same as how we generated simplified or standard invoices, but only exception is that we have to give the document type number as 381 or 383, and the cancellation note as which invoice is being cancelled and the reason for that. So that is all I wanted to discuss today, and we'll now get to the question and answer session. If anybody has any more questions to be asked, then please put it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Arshad, I think one question was from Mr. Yusuf.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mahmoud Ali. It's regarding the rejection handling. How we are handling rejection from ZATCA?
Okay, ZATCA has put forward different, even for technical issues, both in your ERP side and our side also, which we can provide you the document for how such things are handled. But for the rejection cases, so once you send the invoice raw data from your ERP to our EGS, we will be, checking pre-validation, seeing if everything is correct as per ZATCA, if the computations or the VAT percentage, everything is correct. And based on that, if that is, cleared, then only we will proceed to building the XML and then send it to ZATCA. So if again it gets rejected from ZATCA for any reason, then that error will be given as a response back to your ERP. I'll just show you one error, say for example, that is being created from our end itself. So say for example, we already created invoice number 1, right? So if I again try to generate invoice number 1, if I send that, you will receive a response that please provide a unique invoice reference number. So it has to be corrected from your ERP itself, then send it back to our EGS for clearance. So such, if any errors or warnings that come from ZATCA, it will be provided as a response back to the user who has generated the invoice. I hope that's clear. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And again, one more question is that whether this required to keep the XML as a long-term record.
Yeah, you can, for the archival purposes, you can just store the PDF A3s also, which has the embedded XML document inside. That would be fine and good for as per ZATCA, and it has to be stored for 7 years. Okay, it's 6 years from the end of tax period. Say, for example, if you have generated the invoice on January 1st, then end of tax period is December 31st, and from there 6 years, which would mean you have to store it for 7 years for any audit purposes or any checks that may come from the tax authorities. I hope that's also clear.
Yeah, and Shada, I'll put up a question which we recently usually get from demonstrations. It's regarding some clients doesn't wish to integrate their ERP with a third-party server. So in that case, what we actually do, what we can provide them instead of putting some like an on-premise setup.
Yes. So as I mentioned, our EGS can be implemented both in on-premise or on cloud. So if you don't want your data to be sent to a third-party server, get it processed over there and stored over there, then you can opt for an on-premise server. So the process and storage, everything will be happening in your infrastructure itself. And our cloud servers, we also provide cloud servers if you don't want to maintain an on-premise server. So our cloud servers are hosted in a Class C graded cloud servers, which are the highest graded and highest certified cloud servers by the Saudi government. So everything will be safe over there. But if you have any complaints from your company side, do not send the data outside of your organization, then it's well and good to have an on-premise server.
Yeah, I think the Q&A session is complete and there is no more questions. So we can wind up. Thank you all for joining the session. Thank you, Zirhan, and thank you, Ashik, for being part of it. It was a great presentation. And also thank you, Rishad, for giving the demonstration and for replying to the questions we had.